In a verdict that echoes through the corridors of power in South Asia, a Bangladesh court has sentenced the country's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to death. A daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founder of Bangladesh, condemned by the very people he freed from Pakistan's chokehold in 1971. Our cover story dissects the gavel's fall, the court's thunderous words, the political aftershocks, and Bangladesh's betrayal of Mujib's dream. Sheikh Hasina fled Bangladesh in August 2024 as fury boiled over her government's crackdown on student protests. What began as a demand for reform of government job quotas for certain categories of people ended in carnage. More than 1,000 dead, thousands more injured. Fast forward to 17th November 2025, Dhaka's International Crimes Tribunal, a special war crimes court, drops the hammer. Judge Ghulam Murtaza Mozumdar says Sheikh Hasina is guilty of inciting violence, ordering killings, and failing to prevent atrocities. The courtroom erupts in applause as the judgment is read out.
We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
Amnesty International calls the verdict flawed. The UN regrets the death penalty. The International Crisis Group criticizes the verdict in absentia. The Belgium-based think tank says that in absentia trials are often a source of contention, and in this case, the speed with which the hearings were conducted and the apparent lack of resources for the defense also raise questions of fairness. A column published by Dhaka-based Pratham Alo newspaper says that the judges should have put their mind independently and impartially to the evidence. Experts at the US-based Atlantic Council warn that polarization has peaked and elections could ignite civil strife. For her part, Sheikh Hasina says that the verdict was delivered by a rigged tribunal established and presided over by an unelected government with no democratic mandate. She says, and I quote, "In their distasteful call for the death penalty, they reveal the brazen and murderous intent of extremist figures within the interim government to remove Bangladesh's last elected Prime Minister and to nullify the Awami League as a political force," unquote. Ironically, the court was set up by Sheikh Hasina herself to try war crimes from Bangladesh's 1971 struggle for independence from Pakistan. The verdict is not final, though. Both prosecution and defense have the opportunity to appeal to a higher court, and final disposal of the case will be made by the appellate division. But there's no denying that the verdict has implications for Bangladesh. For one, the future of Sheikh Hasina's Awami League Party is in peril. The interim government, headed by Professor Muhammad Yunus, says that the Awami League remains under what it calls legal proscription for its role in the 2024 violence. The party, once Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's secular torchbearer, is hemorrhaging. Its leaders are either jailed or exiled. Whereabouts of Sheikh Hasina are not known. Sheikh Hasina, Mujib's heir, embodied his 1971 dream, complete with secular democracy and minority rights. She was 27 and abroad when her father was killed in a 1975 coup. She first led the Awami League to victory in 1996, serving a 5-year term, then regained power in 2009, never to lose it again. She was credited with turning around the country's economy. She won international praise for sheltering Rohingya Muslims fleeing persecution in neighboring Myanmar. But the country witnessed a spectacular U-turn since the 2024 protests. Angry youths set fire to Mujib's legacy and ousted her from power less than 7 months after winning a 5th term as leader. The country of 170 million people, the 4th largest Muslim majority country in the world, was once liberation's poster child, but today it flirts with theocratic drift. Sheikh Hasina took a tough stand against Islamist movements during her rule, but Islamist groups have grown increasingly assertive. Now, they've demanded restrictions on cultural activities that they see as anti-Islamic or un-Islamic, including music and theatre festivals, women's football matches, and even kite-flying celebrations. Recently, Bangladesh cancelled plans to hire music teachers for primary schools after the move faced fierce opposition from Islamist groups. The reversal follows strong protests from Bangladesh's largest Islamist political party, the Jamaat-e-Islami, and other Islamist organizations that oppose the inclusion of music in school curricula. Sheikh Hasina's son Sajib Wazed, who lives in the US, has warned of violent protests if the ban on Awami League Party is not lifted before the February election. A showdown could disrupt Bangladesh's garment exports to global brands. Remember, Bangladesh is one of the world's largest garment exporters. The 2024 protests, which the UN says killed up to 1,400 people, had already brought economic activity to a standstill. A new round of violence could further jeopardize the country's economy, which is reliant on a $4.7 billion IMF bailout. The International Crisis Group says the prospect of Sheikh Hasina mounting a political comeback in Bangladesh now appears very slim. Her rival, Khaleda Zia, the chief of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, is now 80, but will likely contest elections despite suffering from years of house arrest when Sheikh Hasina was in power. The two had joined hands to lead a popular uprising for democracy that toppled military ruler Hossein Mohammad Ershad in 1990. But the alliance did not last. The bitter rivalry between the two, called the Battling Begums, using an Urdu honorific for prominent women, went on to dominate Bangladeshi politics for decades. The rivalry endures to this day. Will it heal or hurt Bangladesh? Time will tell.